Yo, welcome to this video of how to race a crit. My name's Alec and I'm going to do my best to talk you through everything you need to know about how to get round or maybe even win a crit. We're going to look at the strength and the skills you might need, as well as the tactics you can use whether you're a sprinter or fancy yourself as a breakaway artist. I'm even going to talk about how you can maybe manipulate others to get them to do work and allow the race to fall into your hands. But before we get into all that, I've got to ask you to do the very tiresome thing of liking and subscribing to this channel. I'm new at this YouTube business and it really helps me out of the algorithm. But to make it worth your while, you see those Tekka socks that Benji's wearing right there? I'm going to give a fresh pair out to the best comment on this YouTube video. So if you want to lay one down, I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, back to it. Crystal Palace Crit. It is one of my favourite circuits in the world. It's tight, technical, hard. Even has a little climb in it. It's attracted some amazing riders over the years, including Fred Wright, Ethan and Leo Hayter, Ben Tulip, Teo Gegenhardt, Joanna Rousel, even Wiggo if I'm correct. Today is no different. We've got World Tour boy Ben Healy and newly signed Jumbo Visma rider Tommy G. Big up Tommy, what a hero. And yeah, let's get into it. First off, the start. Now, ignore what I'm doing here. I'm taking a real lazy start. That's because I'm a little bit cocky and I know this place like the back of my hand. I know where I can move up and I can do it quite easily here just because I know it so well. But usually, you're going to want to get a good start in a crit. The quicker you can get to the top 5 to 10 positions, the better. That is the best place to sit in a crit. You don't want to be sitting at the back because it's harder, where everyone's like jostling for position, slamming their brakes into turns, trying to move up that little bit and taking that extra little bit of extra time to get on the pedals and fight to get on the wheel. All of that wears you down and you're going to get stuck in this weird sort of tumble dryer washing machine effect of just trying to move up. So the quicker you can get to the front of the race, you might have to put a little bit of effort in to do it, but what that'll do, once you get there, you'll find yourself saving energy, you'll be a lot more relaxed, be able to watch the race and watch it unfold, follow attacks, and that is the best place to be. Because look, you can see in the race right now, I'm having to pedal real hard just to get back on to Sam's wheel there, because the race is so strung out that every rider that's in front of me brakes that little bit later and takes that little bit longer to get on the pedals, which means they have to go a little bit quicker to get back on the wheel in front and catch up and match the speed of the guys at the very front of the race. So that's not what we want to be doing. So if you watch here, any moment you have in the first 15 minutes of a crit to move up, take it. It's so vital that you do that because you will save so much energy in the long run. So you can see now, I'm putting in 600-700 watts just to get round to the front of the race because I know that's where the action's kicking off. And look, just as we come round to complete that one, I'm already having to chase down World Tour boys Ben Healy and Tommy G. So let's quickly look at some of the skills and attributes we're going to need to get round a crit. Obviously we're going to have to be strong and fit to a degree, one that matches the level of the racing we're at. That could be 4th cat all the way to professional. But something that we do need across the whole board that I don't think is covered enough is skill. Now, I don't know if you noticed there, but I almost hit the back wheel of Tommy as I came out of the turn. That's because I was carrying a bit more speed than he was. Now, if I'm carrying more speed out of the turn, it means I have to put less effort into getting up to speed. That might save me 1% of energy. And if I save that extra 1% of energy, that might be more energy that I can use to make the race winning attack or using the sprint towards the end. Now, bike handling is often overlooked. It's something you just want to go out and practice and have fun with. If you can be more confident with your bike handling and be able to take more speed around a turn and use less energy, that's only going to benefit you in the long run. Now, there's no doubt here that riders like Tommy G and Ben Healy, who are racing at World Tour level, are stronger riders than them. They can put out more watts than I can for longer periods of time. So I have to find ways to beat them using my head, my tactics, and my skill set. So I don't know if you saw then, but I fast forwarded it through a little bit because I don't want you guys getting bored watching a whole hour's race. This video will be about 25 minutes long, I guess. Now, I took my opportunity to put on the hurt on those riders where I could, and that was in the technical section using my speed and my bike handling skills just to go around corners and put on a little bit of pressure on those riders. Now what those riders are going to have to do, they're going to have to use their energy to chase me back up. I didn't necessarily want to go on the attack then, but I thought let me state my dominance try and throw my weight around, and let me show those boys that I'm not scared of them and I'm here to race. Now, like I said earlier, the first 15 minutes of the race are the hardest. You can see Philip there. He's like going, man, I'm like 8 minutes into this thing. I'm struggling. I promise you, the race will eventually slow down. Those first 10 to 15 minutes are always the hardest. So you've got to hang in, grit your teeth, and just, if you can make those first 10, 15 minutes, I'm pretty sure you're going to make the whole race. You've definitely got a very high chance of doing it anyway. As we fast forward through the video a bit more, just on cue, the race is slowing down. We're about 10 minutes in, it's bunching back up. But what that does mean is that now the race is slowed down at the front a little bit, the attacks are going to start flying. Here's where you do not want to be caught out of position. You see, I'm quite far back. I'm conscious that I'm slipping a little bit far back. So much so, I'm giving that young dude a death stare going, do not dive bomb me. Because I know how important this part of the race is. It's a good opportunity to slide up the inside of riders, pick them off one by one, and just keep an eye on the front of the race. Because I guarantee it, people are going to be trying to get away. Especially people that are very strong, like Ben Healy and Tommy G. There you go, right on cue. There's a big attack going up the hill. If I was really far back, I'd miss that. Riders in front of you miss it, and there could be a huge gap for me to chase, where I waste loads of energy just to try and ride myself back into the race. And I'm not even on the attack or on the wheel at that point. So I'm on the wheel now. I'm still banging out a couple hundred watts, you know. I'm keeping my eye on what these guys are doing. I know that this race is most likely going to unfold with the big two strong guys, 3 or 4 guys, whacking it, trying to break us all. Because they're better riders than we are, there's no doubt about it. But they're not in familiar territory for themselves. They normally race on the road, race long, drawn out races where they don't need to push the limits of the corners like we do in crit so often. So they're on the back foot here. We have to acknowledge that. But where I'm in my element on the corners, I can try and sort of catch up to those guys and cover their attacking moves, try and stop them breaking me. If I can use my cornering speed to keep up with them and make up for what I lack on the straights compared to those guys, I can keep myself in the race. So I'm just going to watch these two, and every corner we go around, I'm just going to try and go around that little bit quicker, save that extra 1% of energy, and maybe I'll be good. Now, someone I want to talk about in this race, James Summerfield. You saw him on the right hand side in the pink, flying up the attack. Here is a great example of how to race to your strengths. Now, we have riders that are sprinters, riders that are punchers, riders that are like time trial specialists. Now, those guys in the crit, they'll all be there. Now, personally, I like to ride very punchy. I like to get away in breaks of 6 or 7 in a reduced bunch, big enough so that I can hide from doing too much work, and not so big that it comes down to a massive bunch sprint. I like a reduced bunch sprint. That's what I like. But riders like James Summerfield, he doesn't quite have the turn of speed that some of us have. So he knows that the way he's got to win the race is by attacking and getting away on his own. So one thing he should not be doing is bringing moves back for riders like me. If Tommy G and Ben Healy go on the attack, he should look at me to bring that move back, because I'm the fast rider that wants to bring that back and make it a reduced bunch sprint. I don't want to go away on my own, so it's down to me to keep the race together. Where James wants to get away on his own, any opportunity he has to attack and get away and try and sneak away, he should take it, like he's just done right there. He's a very new, I'd say he's quite new to cycling, but I think he rode a very mature, inspiring ride here. And there's a lot of riders that could maybe learn from him in this scenario, especially on the video here. I was very impressed. I think whilst we sit around and look at each other, and us big dogs kind of go, no, you chase it, no, I'm watching you, I'm waiting for you to attack. That's an opportunity for a rider like James who can slip underneath the radar, get away, and maybe even stay away and win the race. So, you've got 2 tactics there. If you're a rider like me who wants to keep the race together and try and go for a sprint, if you haven't got teammates, it's kind of down to you to cover it, cover the moves, use your turn of speed to jump on attacks, and maybe don't help out with the work on the front as much as some of the other riders who want to stay away and really drive the pace so hard that it breaks all the riders. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got a rider like James Summerfield there in the pink Trash Mile RT, who doesn't want to help me win the race, doesn't want to help bring anything back. He wants to be the one making me chase. Now, they're 2 opposites. one of them's going to go. It's kind of down to, can he attack so hard and so often that I can't do it anymore? Or can I hang on and get to the last lap with some energy left to go for the sprint? Now, riders like Ben Healy and Tommy G, they're so strong and so well rounded. They perhaps are going through the mentality here and the race choice of, they attack so much that they wear me down. So even if I do get to the end of the race with them, I'm so knackered that I don't even have the legs to attack. Now, as you see, all the riders here, we're all a version of that rider. Some of us in between. You've got Matt Holmes there. He's like an even more extreme version of me. He's a very talented rider, a little bit older than us. You know, doesn't have the amount he works, full-time worker. Elite rider, won this race many times. Now, he knows that he's not quite as strong as we are, so there's no way in hell that he's going to go out and do some work on the front and help us out, because he needs to save every little bit of ounce of energy. And we know that. We respect that as riders, and we can't expect him to share the workload when, he's not a full-time rider like some of us are. So he essentially has to do what he can to try and get a free ride. He might wind some people up in the process, but if you know that if you go and help out in the front and you're going to die and not make it to the end, then you've got to be stubborn. You've got to be ready to take the hate of the other riders and disrupt the cohesion of the bunch. But it is what it is. Now, at this point, we've spent the last 20 minutes attacking, counter-attacking, following moves. What I want to do is get rid of a few extra riders and put the hurt on the bigger riders, so they don't just feel like they're getting really confident being able to just put the hurt on me like I'm eventually going to break. So when a counter-attack opportunity comes, if you feel good enough and the heart rate isn't too high, you can spring a move on and make the other riders chase. So I saw a little gap, I went, screw it, I'm going to go chase down James Summerfield, and with that I'm going to keep pushing on over the top and hurt some riders. Now, James Jenkins there, he's a fantastic TT'er. He's the kind of rider that probably wants to get, look at that, on cue. James Summerfield goes again, and I think, you know what, now's a good time to try and follow this move. I followed a few. I was like, if he goes away, he's clearly very strong. If me and him get away, maybe I'm probably going to win this race. But what I was about to say about James Jenkins is he's the kind of rider that is strong, has got a bit of a good kick, most likely wants to be in a break of 1 or 2. He probably wants to be where I am now with James. 2 strong riders that are going to work together well, try and stay away from the rest of the riders, and he can just maybe win the drag race at the end. But I'm thinking, you know what, James is looking strong, let me cover this move, and as I'm there I can jump straight on it and maybe we'll go away. James flicked me through, my heart rate's through the roof. I'm just like, man, I can't do this. Now Tommy G, seen the opportunity, he's come across to us, he's tried to get away. I thought, you know what, I'm going to let him get that gap, but in the corner I'm going to try and bring it back as much as possible. Now you can see how important bike handling is. Tommy hasn't ridden a few crits in a while. He's mostly been riding things like Tour de l'Avenir and under 23 Giro and stuff like that. He's putting phenomenal rides in those races, and he's a little bit out of practice with the crits. And his bike handling, he went onto the grass there, and by doing that, just wasted the gap that he had to me. If he maintained that gap and was able to go around the corner just as quick or just a little bit slower, almost as quick as I was, he could keep that gap and keep that pressure on me. Because he made that mistake, it allowed me just to roll onto the wheel, spending a little less energy. And there you go, it's back together. Now it's Ben Healy's turn to go. He's going to counter the crap out of this race. Those riders, not exactly sprinters, they're mostly used to just banging out the watts per kilo for a long time up big long climbs, and now they're going to dish it out. As you can see, we're doing 600-700 watts. My beats per minute on my heart rate is saying like 170 now. Look, it's skyrocketing through the roof. It's climbing to 180 already. That's how you know it's getting really hard. The cadence is up high. We are 25 minutes into the race. Now it's time where people start to feel the pain, and they're just going to put the hurt on. So let's have a quick little round up there. We need a good start. The first 15 minutes are hard, and you've got to choose what kind of rider you are. Are you going to be a rider that counters-attacks and tries to get away from the peloton, or are you going to be a rider like me who's trying to shut down moves and be a bit of an opportunist and check the right moves to go with, and maybe get away in a break of 2 or 3 and try and win the sprint at the end? Whatever happens here, I'm mostly trying to win the sprint at the end. So have that in your head, that whilst you're watching me go around this race, I'm riding quite defensively, trying to stop anyone slipping away. so that I can have a chance in the sprint at the end, because I think that's my most likely scenario of winning. Benji Tuckner, little junior, he's on the gears, he's on junior gears, so he has to be very specific about where he chooses to attack. Because we have big gears in him, we can push a lot bigger gears going down the hill. So when he's going downhill, he's like spinning his gear out trying to catch up with us. So he has to be very smart about where he attacks, and he's chosen to do that on the hill. Now, it all came back together, a little gap's gone, and I'm thinking I've been doing most of the work chasing the riders down and being very defensive for the last sort of 10-15 minutes. We're almost half an hour into the race, and I think it's probably wise that I let someone else do a little bit of the work. Now, I know the group has reduced to about 6 or 7, maybe 8, because the race has been very hard. It's really separated the wheat from the chaff, shall we say. And what I don't want to do is constantly chase down every single attack that all the other riders understand it's a norm and expect me to do it, and just force me to do it. It's very easy to sort of give yourself a role you don't want, and by doing that, the other riders just continue to let you do it, and they go, well, you made your bed, you lie in it. If you're going to be the one that wants to chase everything down, we're going to let you do it. Cycling's a very hard balance of doing enough work to be cohesive with the group, and not doing too much work that you stifle yourself for the race on the whole. Now, I am glad I did that, because it made some of the other riders, who are clearly strong because they've made it to half an hour into the race of us countering and attacking each other, I know that they can and do have the legs to help me bring it back, so I let them do it, and that race did come back together. Right now, as you can see on screen, it all slowed down for a minute, and I decided to let that gap go. I don't know what happened there. I would say, looking at how many watts I'm having to put out to go and try and close this gap, it was a bit of a silly mistake. If I remember rightly, in the race, I was just a bit gassed, and I went, you know what, I'm hoping they're going to go around that corner, that hairpin, super slow, so that I can just take these couple seconds to recover as much as I can. And that was a bit of a silly move. You know, you don't want to, if you are quicker in the corners, you can let yourself have a little bit of a gap going into it, and, you know, pedal a few revolutions less than everyone else and save the extra bit of energy. But you don't want to do it too much to give yourself work to do with no slipstream like I just did just then. And just as I catch back onto the bunch, it's kicking off at the front again. You know, in a race like this, which has been attacking non-stop, you expect it is just going to be constantly brutal until the end. So giving yourself more work to do is always a bit of a no-no. So one thing I would say is there is an art of out of sight, out of mind. And if you're at the back, people do tend to forget about you. And if you need a bit of a breather and you just want to catch your breath, and you're in a bit of a reduced bunch and it's safe to do so, but you don't go too far back, if you sit, you know, out of sight of the favourites and the people that are watching you, they do tend to forget about you after a few laps, and perhaps that is a time where you can spring an attack or a counter attack. Now, Benji's been quite quiet in this race, and he slipped through to the front. I saw him doing so, and I went, you know what, that's a good move. I'm going to get on the front and just slow it down for Benji, and maybe he'll get a gap. And as you can see, no one reacted instantly to him. They let that gap happen, and what that's done is it's given them more work to do. Benji's off riding a hard pace. He's trying to get away, but he got away and made that attack with relative ease. You know, he hasn't spent all of his beams on that one attack, and if he does get caught, which unfortunately he does, as you can see, just appearing on the right hand side of the screen, you know, he's still got energy and legs to attack another day, or, you know, in another minute in this race, because the attacks just go left, right and centre. And there's Tommy G, followed by Ben Healy. You know, I see this, I look around, I go, Matt, he's going to be stubborn, not going to let us, not going to help us out. James Jenkins sees the danger and goes, yeah, he knows he needs to get on that, and I'm wise to it as well. I go, right, this is where the race is getting really hard. Perhaps there's some tired legs. We saw going up the climb last time that even James Summerfield, who's been attacking non-stop, wasn't really able to hang with the pace. So I'm thinking maybe the other 4 riders in this bunch are starting to tire, and it might just come down to riders like me, James, Ben and Tom. So you've constantly got to be scanning your rivals here and working out how they feel. You know, what position are they going to put you in the race? If you're sitting at the back of 7 riders and you think 3 or 4 of them are pretty dead and haven't got any legs left, and the other three are going to keep on attacking. You kind of don't really want to be on the wheels of the riders that are a bit tired, are going to look to you and do the work and let the gap go. So now, as we come into the later stages of the race, I'm thinking, right, I know that Tommy and Ben are super strong as we do 800 watts up this climb, full gas. These are the riders that I need to fix my eyes on. Any move they make, I need to react to, because everyone else is kind of past the point of being able to react to it. And if I want to win this race, I've just got to grit my teeth and hang on to them. As Tommy gets out of the saddle, when Tommy's out of the saddle, you know he's going hard. As we are flying over the top of this crest, coming into the home straight in. And this is the kind of point where, we've got 5 laps to go. It's not many. We fast forwarded through this race. Very easily, that could have been the move that just left us 4 to it. But as it slows down, riders coming back, Benji brilliantly using his skills attacks into the corner, gives a little bit of a gap, and he's basically just attacked without using energy. He's only used his bike handling skill to get in that gap. And look at the effort that Ben Healy, James Jenkins and Tommy G are having to put in just to get back to him. And unfortunately, here comes Benji's junior gears spinning away down the hill, and we're quite easily able to ride onto the back of him because of our gearing. But that was a great move. That move could have worked. And that's what you've got to think of whilst you're riding these races. Where can I use my strengths to get away? And that was an exceptional example of how to use your strengths in a race when you don't have the power and the speed to put it out on the flat or the downhill. Use it in the corners, the uphills. And as we come into 4 laps to go, the race is sitting up, and it's almost like James Summerfield has ridden himself back into this race. And he's almost thinking about it. You can see the cogs working in his head. He's going, yeah, I'm going to attack in a minute because that's all I have left. And the only way he can win this race is by slipping away. So he's going to do his best. How many of us are in this group? There's me, Matt Holmes, Tommy G, Ben Healy, James Jenkins and James Summerfield. And that's it. This is what the race is down to now. So I can afford to sit on the back of this group and iron them up. I am slightly worried about Matt Holmes, knowing that if it gets really hard, he could lose the wheel. But he's done a very good job of getting this far. You'd expect him to be able to hang on, but you have got to throw some caution, thinking that if it really kicks off, 1 or 2 of these riders might not be able to hang on. As I float at the back, I think I even go up to Benji and ask him how he's feeling. Earlier on in the race, I said, did he feel like doing an attack? And he gave it a good go. Junior, 17 years old and junior gears, attacking World Tour boys. It's very impressive. As we come into, I think 3 laps to go once we complete this lap, just over the hill. This is where the sprint might light up later, but not if James Summerfield has anything to do about it. If him and Ben Healy get away, that could be a very strong pairing and we would struggle. So we've all reacting very hard here. As you can see, the heart rate's climbing back up, the watts are flying, and it's very much cat and mouse from here on. Now, let's focus in on what I'm thinking right now. I'm thinking I'm quite tired. I've been doing a lot of chasing. I don't feel great in some points in this race. I remember feeling like, I was a bit gassed and the legs weren't quite there. It's a very much of surviving this race and hanging on, making it to the sprint. And what I'm trying to do in these last few laps of the race is follow the big boys and the main contenders and not let anything go away. And at this point, it's pretty much anyone that attacks. Because I want this race to come down to a sprint, I am trying to save as much energy as I can. That's mostly sitting on the wheels. I'm not getting on the front. I'm not doing any counter attacks, trying to throw my weight around anymore, show how strong I am to the other riders. I'm not trying to intimidate anyone. I'm just trying to follow. I'm being very conservative now. You see James freewheeling, sitting up, taking a drink. That's James Jenkins on the left, I should know. We've got Ben Healy and Tommy Glowag in front of me. And then behind me is James Summerfield and Matt Holmes. Now Matt Holmes, he's a rider that has been sitting there the whole time with 2 laps to go as we come across the line. He's done nothing all race. He could be the rider that just decides he wants to spring an attack and try and go alone, but most likely not. So I am just sitting in 4th wheel, not sitting at the very back of the bunch now. I'm following who I think are the 2 main contenders in the race, the strongest guys, naturally so, and I'm covering any move they make. as you see, Ben's gone. I don't jump straight onto his wheel because I go, is Tommy G going to take the bait? And you give them that sort of split second to react, and if they do, you slide onto their wheel, and Tommy G's bringing back Ben Forking out, and that's, you know, a little bit of more energy I'm going to save, that extra 1% of energy I've got for the finish. I'm pretty sure this is, you know, 2 laps to go as we come around dead man's turn, the very infamous dead man's turn. Been many come a cropper down that hill into that dirt descent to the right. Many stories, I think, even in this race. But yeah, we're coming into 1 lap to go. I'm sitting in third wheel. I'm just watching the main contenders, and I'm constantly flicking my head back left and right, looking at who's behind me, who's about to attack, and I'm ready to pounce on anything that goes at this point, because I just want to have the opportunity to sprint at the end against these guys. And you see that my head constantly looking left. I know James Jenkins is behind me. I know Matt Holmes is there. Benji even. If Benji goes, obviously I'm going to let him go and try and let him get the gap. But anyone else, I'm going to have to follow or hope that Benji gets on. And I've got to be ready. I'm on like high alert, and I'm ready for any move to jump at this point. Tensions are high, heart rate's going up, mostly with nerves. The race isn't too hard, as you can see. We're doing like 300 watts up the hill, just ticking over. But this is the kind of moment you come into 1 to go, and you're thinking, right, this is looking like it's going to come down to a sprint, but who's going to try and disrupt that? Obviously there's going to be one contender. Now, at any moment, someone could sprint and the rest of the riders in front of me decide, nope, we're not chasing it, we're going to let you chase it. I've got to be ready for that. I've got to be ready to jump on any wheel and close down any gap that I can, you know. You see James gone to the left, and on cue he kicks across. Benji in second wheel there, he's latched right on that, and Ben and Tommy in front of me have followed the wheel. So I'm thinking, right, 1 lap to go, the bell's ringing, I've just got to stay on it now. I don't give them too much of a gap into the turn. 3 wheel straight onto the wheel, saving an extra little % of energy again. Might be able to use that in like 20 to half a minute's time. And as we come round this sweeping left hand into this right hand turn, I'm just looking ahead of me what's going on. I can see Benji is trailing James Summerfield there, with Ben Healy and Tommy chasing him, and I'm thinking, you know what, those two have got a bit of a gap, but it's a long way to the line. It's a big long drag, and I guess I'm kind of using the other riders as a lead out train now. I'm watching what Ben Healy and Tommy G do. I know Tommy G's very quick, he's beaten me in a sprint here before, and I'm just trying to stay on the wheel, waiting for the next moves to go. I think it's quite self-explanatory what's going on here. 2 riders have attacked, and the rest of us are chasing it. If it was me, I might have flicked my elbow if I was Ben right now, going, I need some help doing this. I'm not dragging you boys to the end. But, you know, he is that strong. And look, the moment we catch him, Matt Holmes goes, right, this is my moment. It's time to spring. And I think he's very fast. I've got to get on that. 1,000 watts straight on the wheel. I'm just sitting here biding my time. We've got maybe 20 seconds of racing left. I look behind, looking behind. I think any minute is the time to go. See no one's behind. I kick. I'm going to kick before anyone else does. Everything I've got left now, we're maxing out at like 1400 watts. Just sprint as much as I can. I can see I've got a gap. And there you go. That's how you win a crit. What can I say? Doing 190 beats per minute. It was an extremely attacking race. Everyone threw the kitchen sink at that, and everyone gave it a good go. I don't think there was anyone that didn't deserve to win that race. And it came down to not the strongest rider winning, but the person that played their cards right. And that is something I want you guys to think of whilst watching this video. You know, how can you play to your strengths? You know, highlight your strengths. Don't be shy. You know, don't be too harsh on yourself, and don't give yourself too much credit. You know, if you think you're not a very good sprinter, you know, how can you try and get away? And if you think you are a better sprinter, how can you limit your energy losses and to use your sprint to its best capability at the end? And that is what we did today as we rock up. Thankfully, we had doing a little pouring documentary with GCN. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. But yeah, on the whole, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. If you've got any questions, just ask me in the comments. It's no problem. I'll be happy to reply. And, as usual, like, subscribe, all that jazz. And I'll get another one of these videos out soon. Peace.
What more can I say?